Oh, hello, everybody. Here is Women Matters, the English-speaking women group of the Wisdom Factory. We meet once a month, and today we are in a very good mood, and we want to talk about the inner work to heal us and the world. And for tonight, it seems that we are already sort of healed our mood. So I'm Heidi Hörnlein. I'm living in Italy, in Paradiso Integrale, where you can come and stay with us, by the way. It's not far from Rome and not far from Assisi. And I'm doing online with Mark Davenport, my husband, the Wisdom Factory, where we do live broadcasts on several topics. And I enjoy to do these women groups. This is the women group in English. We have also a women group in German. So if you are interested, connect with us. Today, the title, as I said, the inner work to heal us and the world. And we want to figure out what we have done, what we think we need to do, and what we think maybe others need to do. And before we go into that, I want to ask the women who showed up this evening or morning in the other part of the world to give a short introduction.
Well, let's start giggling again. We did that before. I'm Monja Frühwirt. I live in Vienna, and I've spent 10 years in the United States, which improved a lot of things of my mental inner work. I started Kundalini yoga there and did comparative religion studies at the New School. This is something my children also carry. My two daughters also carry. The American way of approaching people is natural to them. And of course, they combine it with the Austrian depth, so which we sometimes missed in the States, but it was always very nice to meet new people, talk to them, and remember not their names, but what they wear. Yeah, so yesterday we had a terrific salon of the Integral Group, and I'm very much looking forward today to talking about female or women matters, because I learned a couple of things about what matters to a man, and I just couldn't stop giggling. But yeah, and I'm going to tell you later on. Okay.
Okay, we might as well bounce over here to Vancouver on the unceded territories of the Coast Salish nations that have been here for thousands of years in so-called Canada. And I say that because, in part, we've got a battle here with Kinder Morgan wanting to put a pipeline through these territories. And what's so beautiful about that is that the Indigenous people all over the province are coming together in and working at the level of spirituality to bring a different reality here. And so it's really inspiring to see that voice be strong. And in terms of just feeling into what it is to act in the world, I think it is grounded in spirituality and identity. For me, it is. And a deeper knowing that there is something very powerful happening in the world today, right now, that we're in the midst of in terms of the transformation of our consciousness and a deepening awareness of this critical time, and that the work that needs to be done on the inside and the outside. And my most recent considerations have been in exactly that. How do I put my oxygen mask on first? How do I take care of myself first before I work in the world? And I think that that's one act that I've been really focusing on over the last few months, and especially the last few days. So I'll leave it there. And I'm happy to be here and connecting with all you lovely humans.
Yeah, thank you all. It's Gertraud from Germany, in the middle, north of Frankfurt. And 3 adult daughters to 1 granddaughter and a grandson, just a small one. So life has been very generous to me to have these wonderful women being in the world and contributing to the world. And my inner journey, or my working, doing the work, started with my divorce, with the hardest time in my life. And interestingly enough, today I met with a friend I know from exactly that time, because she was in the kids group with my eldest daughter, or her son, and we were talking about that. And if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have started the journey, at least not that way that I did it. So there is, gratitude also for kicking my butt for doing the work, though it was hurtful. And ever since, there is like with earthquakes, this scale that is ever growing. It's not, there is no end to it. And knowing who I am, what I'm here for, and then doing that contribution in the world, not going out and saving the world because I know it better, but just what is it that I need to say, do, contribute to be fully me and being of service. So oxygen mask first, and then, but not just sitting there and waiting to be rescued by somebody else.
Yeah, thank you for this introductory words. But I want to get from what you said, it seems to be that for going on the journey and for growing, that needs some sort of negative challenge, let's say. We would say it's a negative experience and we don't want that and we refuse. But at the end, we find out that it actually was the reason why we grew up. And so just as an inspiration for people, don't fear what is coming up, what we think is negative. When we go through, then often we find out that it was exactly this moment which has put us on the right track. And I think everybody of us can say something like that. I certainly can. So I wonder if we can share a little bit what sort of inner work you have done, consciously or unconsciously, to come to where you are now. And then maybe later, how you use that, how you have experienced that with the growing, and you're growing up, you become more effective or more, how can you say effective? I don't like this word, but how can you have more impact on the outside world?
Just a small question. Luna, who's unfortunately not with us today, and I both go to a spiritual development class. We call it's called the 1-year seminar with our teacher, Jerry DeStefano Weber. And I've been in that for the last 3 years. And it's been really powerful because we're working with a cohort of people. And she bases her work on some of Gurdjieff's work. And really it's about clearing the blocks and the programs in my system so that I can have more space to bring through what I want to bring through or what I choose to bring through. And she has, in terms of what you were just saying, Heidi, about the pressures and the tensions that come up and that they're actually the right thing. Jerry calls that an outside shock. It's like we're presented with this thing that we have to wrestle with to be able to do the work. And in terms of what that does for me really is allows me to land in myself. One of the exercises that she has us do is when we have a bunch of stuff going on, experiencing negative emotion, she says that's the time to stop, to do the stop exercise, which is to stop and remember the self. And it is powerful and ongoing. And I think what it does for me is it gives me the capacities, but I still need to consciously make the choices in the moment and continue to do the work. And so that gives me more space or capacity to meet whatever's coming. So I'll leave it there for now.
Well, somehow yesterday evening sort of fits to our talk today. We had a presentation of Jane Levinger's ego development of grown-ups, adults. And one of them, what really, it really touched us was that the ego doesn't want to develop. It just wants to feel secure and where it is, and it's a crisis is necessary to sort of shake you out of this complacency. And as you mentioned, the self, the evolutionary self is also something that Craig Hamilton, I think, invented it, or is inventing it right now. And that makes sense to me. So far, we always talked about Eros as being the engine for evolution. And just living fully where you are right now, maybe one of the requirements to do your inner work. Because if you just always try to get better and farther, it's not really helping you. And a continuous contemplation of the self and your breath, of course, is something I find a very, very good practice. And this is what I've been doing for quite some time now. Okay, so far from me.
Where do I start? For me, that inner journey started with that kick and really painful times. And I think it's both. There is this, sometimes we need that push, that to get out of that complacency and get out of, I don't like the word comfort zone, because it's not comfortable, it's more secure. And I'm afraid to get out of it, and that's why, but I don't feel comfortable per se in that so-called comfort zone. But to get out and develop. And there is some, there was some kind of, how should I say that? To get into the state where this longing for ever expanding, for development comes in. And it's not always needed that I get a kick or I get pushed, or because there is that longing coming in and wanting to develop. So, and when I did a lot of things from body therapy, quantum healing, coaching, whatever. And one of which was with T.F. Icke, the quantum leap. And there was one moment in time when I met with somebody in the group where I just said, apprenticeship is over. The learning is now with the beginner's mind. It's not, I need to improve. I need to meet any criteria of other people. So, but still the learning goes on, but not in a way that I'm not good enough yet, or I need to be somebody else, or it's more that inner drive, that inner longing to be more and more fully myself. So it goes this way and this way at the same time. So, and my husband sometimes says I'm greedy with this work. So, isn't that enough? No, it's never enough. That's a way of living as well. Not to come to an end and then I can rest and that's it.
Yeah, and for me, I a little bit relate to what you said, Gertraud. But in my case, it was more the unconscious desire to go to go ahead. I always felt myself, when I look backward now, I felt if there's somebody always to push me, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. And in the situations, I didn't even know that it was, and it was not always only drama. It was this sort of curiosity of this sort of, I have to do something. And it led me to university and trying out several things. And this was not that, and this was not. And then I began to sing, and then after a while I thought, no, so we're singing, yes, but I'm getting older and the voice is not what it is. So what do? I go to Italy because I thought it's the country of the singing, to develop my voice. I did it at the end, but not by schools, but by myself. And I did some things of the breath consciousness, Mittendorf. The German-speaking people maybe know that name. Breath therapy, where we don't breathe, but we have movements, very slow movements, and which frees up the breathing. That was, I think, the crucial point for me to get into contact with something else than only, head stuff. Yeah, and then came the point where I always had problems with my male partners, and I thought, how is it? And there was a real about 40 when I was about 40 and alone again, and I began psychotherapy. And from then on, I got so interested in psychology. I read thousands, not, but many books, and this has become my main drive. Later on, I also did some spiritual work, but for me, I'm grounded more in psychology, and my desire is to get to know how humans tick, how the psyche of humans is working, and I use mainly myself as a study object. And so for me, this is the main inner work, to understand what is going on, and then getting to know myself better, and at a certain point, being able to decide against conditionings, because then I can be, I have a decision when I know this is your conditioned self, and there is another way, and it's not said that I do it always, but it's really completely interesting what you are and what you're not are. And I sort of integrate the spiritual part, but it's, for me, the psychological part is more important, because we are carrying not only our own history and our family history, as we know from constellations, but we are carrying the conditioning of being human. And we often don't realize that, we feel maybe guilty because we are, I don't know what, but it's just, we are humans, and there are certain limitations which there are. So that's my study object, in interiority.
I'm wondering, you said it was unconscious, the drive to develop. So when did it become conscious, and how? Do you remember that?
I think it became really conscious in psychotherapy. I did young psychotherapy, and we worked with dreams, and I had a lot of dreams, and I remembered them all. And it was, every week we could do only one or so, but then it became conscious what is going on in my unconscious, at least up to a certain amount. And this woke me up, really. There's another dimension of me, which was before completely unknown. But looking backward, I felt that I always was pushed, and I'm glad about it, because, and I'm grateful that there was somebody, I don't know if you would say somebody, but some force, you would say Eros probably, the evolutionary force, which has pushed me ahead without me wanting it, actually. I always wanted to be normal, a normal wife, for instance, and I never succeeded.
Not yet.
Not yet, he says. Yeah.
I just need to say something completely different. We have a thunderstorm outside, a real big one. So if I'm gone, you know why. Just want to.
Now.
Well, Heidi, you said normal. I want it to be normal. What is normal?
When we talk in integral terms, normal would be blue or amber, no? Yeah. So the ordinate, the ruled life, you are the persona, you do your duty, you do what you need to do, and blah, 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 blah. And I always, in German, we say, ich ecke an. Yeah, I always, how can you say that? I missed the mark, let's say. There was always something. And I tried several times to be normal, but I sort of boycotted myself. And I saw boycotting negative, but today I see it as positive, that sort of boycott.
Well, when we lived in the States, we lived in the diplomatic community. So there was everything provided for, and it was easy living. And somehow I felt a pull. And so I went and started with Kundalini yoga in an ashram. And my husband picked me up at night because it was a rather dangerous part of the city, so-called dangerous part. And after about a year or so, I had a cosmic experience, cosmic consciousness experience. So maybe this just cleared the channels, the breathing, the pranayama, and from then on, I tried to find out what had happened. So this was my own, as you mentioned, curiosity, my own curiosity, what happened to me. And I found it in all the old literature. And this has never left me. It was in 1973, and it's still there. So it's like a light where you can orient yourself when it's getting darker and darker. And that was just one experience at that time. And of course, several others happened, quite different ones. But this first one was really what got me on my way, on my inner work. And so I wonder if something happened, the same happened to Tammy or Gertrude, or apart from going through the suffering of a divorce.
I would like, before we give it over, to add to that, because I forgot that I had once an experience in that time when I was alone and trying to figure out what is going on. And I went up the hill and saw in the countryside, and there was a moment of understanding everything. And I thought, what is that? I had no idea about spirituality and these things, And then I tried to figure out if this is because I felt like an artist. Maybe it's artists who have these things. And very much later, when I entered into spiritual surroundings, I understood that this was a peak experience, but it was not the one which led me on the way. It was more the psychological curiosity.
So,
I'm happy to share, but I'm curious to know a little bit more about your experience, Moni, in terms of what was actually happening in your interior. What was, if you can share.
Yeah, I can. It took me some years to put it into words. First, I started poetry, so walking over the rainbow with dandelion feet or shoes and things like that. But actually, at that moment, I dropped some of my conditioning. Being conditioned to be a mother, a housewife, blue, according to Wilbur, so normal. And it was a very pleasant way to go over it, because I just decided to kiss somebody. And when I kissed him, actually that was in a very, it's close to the Leopoldsberg. So this is a sacred hill near Vienna. And it was like door after door after door after door opened. I was sort of pushed out, and all of a sudden I was past Jupiter, and I looked back at the planet, and it was beautiful and blue. And my consciousness and every consciousness of every living being there were the same. So that's something you really can't put into everyday life when you are in a diplomatic community. Or even now, it's not that easy, but now it's getting better. But at that time, I didn't understand what I really should do with this experience and with this knowledge. And so that's why I started reading and studying and trying to. And then I found quite numerous descriptions of what happens when you are getting out of yourself. But that it was in such a pleasant way, I'm still grateful for my fate. Because I suffered later, but at that moment it was just pure joy. Just a single kiss.
Well, what a beautiful way to experience that. That's wonderful. Yeah, the trigger for me was I was given a thing to write on a card from. I went to a reading by a channeler, and they said to write on a card, "I call for all of the gifts from all of my lifetimes to come rushing to me now." So I did that. I don't recommend it. Do not try this at home. Maybe something like, I call for all of the gifts from all of my lifetimes to come gently into my awareness so I can integrate them one by one. That might be better. So I went into a period of intense realization. And basically the information of the universe was coming right into my being. And I was having really curious experiences of synchronicity and of thinking of something, and there it is right in front of my eyes, and these sorts of what seems to be magical experiences. And also in that time, I did have a really beautiful experience of traveling the universe after lovemaking that was incredibly intense and beautiful, where I traveled the universe and was able to travel and see and communicate with beings out there. And so it's difficult, very, very difficult to the non-ordinary mind to even know how to talk about it. And what I feel and sense is that our social and cultural beliefs around how the world is limits us from the true magnificence of our world and our universe. And these peak experiences allow us to be in relationship with them and to resonate with the frequency that allows that awareness to be present. And so it was beautiful. It was intense. It set me off on a journey. I had to take at least a decade to sort of back off and integrate, because it was quite a test for the ordinary mind. And I was still living in the world, and the world just keeps on going just like it always has. But for me, everything had changed. And there was a beautiful mystery to follow. So I'm still on that journey. And day by day, earnestly endeavoring to be more conscious and more aware.
So how do you build up the resilience of your ordinary mind, which you need?
Well, I feel that what I've been doing is, in terms of that, is working. There's a body of work that came through me at that time called the alphabet code. And I think that body of work is one of the ways where I can, in bringing it through, that I can have that state of consciousness present, but also be in this world. So the process of bringing through that body of work is one of the ways to condition my ordinary mind, because at the same time that the insights that are within the alphabet code, which are very deep in terms of the transformation of consciousness, can live and be alongside of how do I bring this into the world? How do I create tools, frameworks, ways of understanding this body of work so that others can understand? So that friction between the supraordinary and the ordinary, having them in relationship with each other and finding the very grounded ways to bring the alphabet code into the world is one of the ways that I'm doing that.
Alphabet code, have you written about it? Can we read it up somewhere, or?
I can send you a blog that will give you some.
Would be, yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay. And Gertrude, what was your?
I had several occasions. It's not this one and only, and it's kind of getting deeper and coming out again. It's like sometimes I have very deep connection or feeling connected. For example, before Easter, I was in Greece for a retreat for the meditation I'm doing for 18 years now, daily. And the first days, it was like everything, just my mind was really scattered, and war reporters and all this. And then I sat down at an olive tree and to connect and to feel rooted myself. And all of a sudden it was like life is you know, this not excited, not just this pure beingness. And so I have several of those during my journey of being completely okay and being completely in sync with what is, and feeling that connection. Sure, sometimes I had very beautiful journeys, and they're great, and at the same time, this depth of like the tree talking to me, kind of. I mean, not with the words we hear, but somehow I heard it. Yeah, that's how it is. So like the seed knows already the full extension.
So it's also an experience of connectedness.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I always feel. So
and
but that kind of connectedness, that's on a very deep level, and we could all relax and be just satisfied with and peaceful, and
yeah.
In
one part, so there's several of those, but one part when my mom died, so she had a stroke and was living for another 4 days, and I was sitting there almost around the clock with her, and my brothers and sisters came and went, but there was this and before the evening before she couldn't talk anymore, I was there, and she had a hard time to breathe, and so I said, "Oh, Mom, can I help you?" And then she came over that, and then she said, "It is like it is," and looked like a little girl. And then I felt connected in a way with her that I didn't have during her lifetime. She was not such a pleasant mom. But this girl, like, just embracing life, even in the hardest moments when she almost suffocated. This was like, and then I did the death watch and called a friend who is a shaman, and he connected. And he said, oh, she's going to the light. She doesn't make any detours. She doesn't need anything. She's just like, you know, like a skipping, like a little girl going. And this was so real. So, yeah. So in this moment, I knew I'm not afraid of death anymore. This is over. It's like, maybe I'm afraid of pain and things like that, but this death is nothing horrible. And even you don't have to shorten your life not to suffer. It's like she really loved it to be there for 4 days, not being able to talk, and all the kids coming, and we were drinking beer, we are eating ice cream, and just being with her. And there were some people said, oh, she's suffering. So no, she was happy. And this little bit different with my father, but still this was within a few years to have that deep experience. I think that was, yeah, this was like, life is, and death is life as well. So the fear is gone.
Yeah. And I think this is, or I feel that this is one of the gifts the death of your parents when you are with them can give to you. So I got gifts from my father when I for the first time saw his inner light shining up at the moment of his death, and there were the church bells chiming. It was in midday, and we were holding his hands, and so it was just, oh, I get still. It was just, and also my father-in-law, who was a very, very self-contained man, on his deathbed, when I was just sitting next to him and he was already dead, all of a sudden this energy came. So this is when you are really sitting with them and you open up, then you can feel their essence. And his essence was just so beautiful. And he wasn't able to show it in his life, but in his death, he was able to show his essence. And I just sat there, and tears of joy kept running down my face. And then came a nurse and she said, oh, I'll give you a cup of tea. And so they don't really notice what's really going on sometimes. But I guess many of them know how they can get this energy and support them. Heidi, your trigger.
Yeah.
Apart from psychology, come on.
I told you about this experience. I had the global understanding that everything is okay.
Oh.
You know? Mm-hmm. But what I wanted to ask now is, for instance, Gertraud, you talked about daily meditation. Do we need to do a daily practice? And if so, which one? So a question for everybody. I can say I'm doing in the morning deep breathing, which one of our guests in the Conscious Aging series has taught us. And then I insert also Om singing, and then I sit for a short while, maybe only 10 minutes or something. And in the evening, I do 10 minutes of Qigong, and then doing what another guest has shown us, Kundalini Yoga, mantra singing. And then sitting another 10 to 20 minutes or so before we go to bed. Sometimes I sleep away, I have to say, but normally it works. So now over to you.
As I told you at the beginning, I'm raised in German, but I'm pretty messy. When it comes to, like obeying rules or doing a specific thing every day in the same order or things like that. And that was one of the, to find my own way and not to say, okay, for example, my husband can sit there for an hour with Zen meditation. I get crazy. It doesn't work. So really to find that and to allow myself to be messy with the practices. And one of those, when I came to learn Ashaya's Ascension, which is my practice, then it was kind of, that's it. That's what gives me access in every single moment of the day when I wish to. So driving a car, sitting in a train, being in a meeting, going to sleep, waking up, or regularly sitting and doing meditation as most people think meditation should be. And this is really like, it's like a hotspot. So I don't have a landline where I need to do it on a specific spot, but to have that hotspot everywhere and be able to connect, and no matter how long or short the practice. Sometimes short gets me deeper than for an hour. So it depends on how much stress I have and whatever that might be. And for me, this was such a great gift. And before I had this, I need to practice every day, this and that. And it was more like homework. I have to do it. And since I learned this way of meditation, it's a longing. So in the evening, I didn't practice it today. So now I sit down, but it's more like I'm drawn to it because that gives me this connection, this deep feeling, this deep understanding. And that's why I did it every day, not because I have to, I should, but because it's my inner longing to do it. And otherwise, I tried so many things and just skipped them after a while because I'm so messy with my to-dos.
Can you explain just a little bit more what you are doing? What that is? I didn't even understand Shia's Ascension. What is that?
Ishaya's Ascension. Ascension is, as to ascend is rise beyond boundaries and beliefs. And
what is Ishaya's? Maybe I'm stupid, but
very old little sentences that address the left and the right hemisphere. Because gratitude and love. So you're thinking those sentences and they bring you right through all the grooves to the source. Yeah. And it works.
Can you write it down?
With many and with little thoughts.
Can you write it down? So somewhere, is there still a possibility to get
you can
notes?
send it to me and I will publish it on the site. I'm just thinking about what I also am doing is sort of awareness during the day, trying to be very awake and understand what is going on. And when I dream away, or come back and see what is really, thank you, what is really going on. So probably people would say it's mindfulness. I don't know. I have never done a course in that, so it's more intuitive.
And I might add to it. I put it in the chat. It's the work we are doing with the appreciators. So the appreciative perspectives, the work with the traffic light, yeah, all kinds of practices that come along with that we put in our book.
Gertrude, I just want to say how much I appreciate you framing, because for me, the discipline to do the thing in right order has been the bane of my existence. So to hear you express how you do it and that you found another way to yearn for that, that's really exciting. I'm gonna work with my toolkit with that. For me, I do meditate and I contemplate. So both of those. So meditation in terms of emptying the mind, contemplation in terms of following the flow of thought and consideration, and to focus on deeply considering things. And so those are the two key things that I do to develop, to do my work. And one of the things that I've also come to realize is about the breath. And I noticed, and I'm really working with my breath right now and noticing where it is hitching up. So I like the hotspot idea of always being kind of paying attention to the breath throughout the day as much as possible. I've been doing that and noting that that's one of the big pieces that I need to continue to work on and invest in myself. Yeah, so those are some of the practices. And thank you. That was an awesome reframe for me.
I can share also another practice is to be as much, you reminded me, Tammy, about the breath, be as much aware of the body as possible during the day, of all the feet, or, going down as much as possible. It's also a good parallel to what we are doing, but I find myself often to be somewhere else and then come back, grounded.
One of the practices I continuously do, and this goes back to the Buddhist practices, Buddhism for the West, which I did in 1994, also psychological Buddhism, that you notice your train of thoughts, and when you find thoughts that you do not consider, or Buddhism doesn't consider to help you, you sort of stop them, maybe with a mantra. And this, and it gets you out of this circle of when you are really caught up in something. And there is, I don't know what, I guess it should also be in English, but I only know it in German. It's the Maitreya teaching. Lehrrede der liebenden Güte. So you look through the fog of your mind and you, by cutting you through, you drop, you drop a way of thinking, and you get to transcendence. That's what. And if you learn this teaching by heart, it sort of guides you. So it calms you down when you are really excited about something. It calms you down, and you feel like holding every human, every sentient being in your hand and caring for it, like I'm translating now, like a father and a mother do for their child. So this is a very beautiful picture. And finally, then, when nothing arises anymore, there is peace and quiet. And from there on, you go into action. So it's not that you just drift away, but from there on, and this is what we will talk about next time, how to get into the world. And I feel that after a certain time, people sense your inner work. It's the way you react or not react to certain things. And I find it even with my grandchildren, because they know they can rely on me because I am what I am. And I don't pretend and I don't play act. I'm just what I am. And yeah, but I'm still working on it. So it will be work until your last breath, and that's fine with me. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. We are on the top of the hour, and this was a really, really, really intense conversation. And I'm looking forward to talking next time about what our inner work, how it helps us to go out into the world, and what we are doing. We can share it with each other, and I'm looking really forward to it. So thank you, everybody. Shall we do a little bit of checkout? Okay.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. There's something really beautiful that happens for me in these kinds of conversations where we are able to be so authentic and learn from each other, because there's gold in these hills. And through touching each other and knowing each other and sharing what we know, I just feel so grateful to progress myself and take those little bits of treasure and incorporate them in my own life. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you as well. And I'm very much looking forward to the next one, exactly because of that. We are in this world, and we are in the world, but not of the world, so to say, and to see how, as Monia said, being in that connective state, being your essence, and then act, not from this and I need to and I should, and I think that's a very important thing. And I would love to share, and I told Tammy already, exactly that was my question for one of the evenings in Greece when I was in the retreat, and our teachers, they said, they talked about 6 different things that are necessary, or that they think are crucial to exactly be that, be in the world, but not drawn into that stress and chaos and whatever. So yeah, and I will put that together, so maybe I can share that at the beginning, and then we can talk about that. So for a start.
Yeah, my checkout. When I started this talk, I felt tired. The weather is just miserable. It's much too hot for this time of the year, and it's much too hot too soon. And now I feel nourished and peaceful, and I want to thank you all It's just talking about these experiences, you rarely talk about them. So that's why I try to trigger that. Because whenever I talk about it, I feel whole. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and for me, it's the same. I often am tired, and when I come out, especially of the women conversation, I am, somewhere else. It's amazing. And I also am very glad that we do it in this way, that we talk about these things, because I still hope that there is some other woman out there who will listen to the recording and may be inspired to recognize their own situation and can see that they are not alone. Because a long time in my life, I thought it's only me, And then when you begin to understand that it's normal in a certain sense, then you can begin really to trust in the development and to go on with this journey. And it will always be difficult in a certain sense. I think, as you said, Monia, it is lifelong. I feel lifelong this struggle to really find the balance between relaxation and let it be as it is, and getting involved in the world, let's say, of the horrors of the world. So I think it might be calmed down when I'm in your age, Monia. I hope so. But I do think it is that development doesn't stop, and we don't just sit down one day. Then it's over in some way. Then we get like stone. My mother died like a stone, and I'm very sorry for that. And I have decided not to die like a stone, but to be alive up until the last moment, even if it will be difficult, because there are a lot to struggle around. But this is exactly what I find is rewarding. Whatever struggle you have and you have overcome it, something new is coming out. And just for me, it's important that we share that to be an inspiration for the world. This is for me already something what we are doing, apart from the other things we are doing. So thank you very much, all of you. And we see you next time to talk about what we have discussed today. How is it helping us to go out into the world, to live in the world? Okay, so thank you. See you next time.